Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. And hey, it's time for yet another indie web cartoon! To recap, I was suggested to look at 3 specific web cartoons. Last time I did one of these was in January, and the first one we looked at was Digital Circus, which since that review has gone on to have another episode. Yeah, they declared the pilot the official first episode, and they went on to have their official second episode since then. But now we move on to the next of these web cartoons, Lackadaisy. Starting off as a webcomic in 2006, the plot to Lackadaisy was meant to be a retelling of the prohibition era in the US, but with cat people. With clear inspiration from the likes of Don Bluth and classic Disney, the webcomic was insanely popular, winning awards at the Web Cartoonist Choice Awards. It went on to inspire other webcomics and artists, and the comic even got published a long time ago. And then in 2023, they got a short film that would also set the way for a web series crowdfunded by the fans on Kickstarter. Put out by Iron Circus Animation, connected to the independent publisher Iron Circus Comics, the project was fronted by the comic's original creator, Tracy Butler, and fellow artist and animator, Fable Seagal. Saying the pilot did well would be a massive understatement. I mean, the video currently sits at 14 million views, it has various web outlets giving it widespread acclaim, and even the mainstream were picking up on this, as the short was shown at a proper movie theater in LA, with cast and creators doing a Q&A afterwards. Damn, well, with all this acclaim this pilot has gotten, I'm surprised it's taken me this long to actually get to it. But hopefully now I can make up for that. This is the pilot for Lackadaisy. So the pilot begins in 1927, during the Prohibition era. Alcohol was a commodity that was forbidden to be sold and redistributed. Smugglers would travel for miles around to get their hands on the stuff. Exactly what our main characters are going to be doing. But first, we see this Catman do singing to some 1920s slam poetry. Wait, I guess they didn't call it slam poetry back then. I guess if anything they just called it poetry, I guess? With the aid of his fiddle by the railroad tracks.
Umber whiskey waters lends the prideful, sober sovereignty, a faulty haloed temperance, and welter self-sure countenance. Yes, righteousness is vanity. But sports for imps, not elderly.
Okay, considering he just said imps, you are making it incredibly easy to reference another certain indie web cartoon at the moment, sir. And it also doesn't help the fact that he's another reoccurring voice actor in these projects. Yeah, if you can't tell, he was the voice actor for Angel Dust in the Has-Been pilot, and he's the voice of Jax on Amazing Digital Circus. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised. I actually couldn't tell first time around. What can I say? That actor has a lot of range. This cat's name is Rocky, and he's one of our 3 main booze smugglers. The other 2 are these cats, Ivy and Freckle, who appear to be doing actual work while Rocky is supposed to be keeping watch.
No encore?
No, that's plenty.
We're fine. Should I add a dance? Extra stanzas? There's more where that came from. Please don't ruin musical theater for everyone.
Must resist easy cats 2019 joke.
Why don't you come down here and grab a shovel?
Alas, Miss Pepper, I was cursed with these spaghetti arms. So, I do what I can. I provide the
That's okay, I think I'll be fine. Besides, cats always land on their tushy.
I thought they always landed on their feet.
Oh, sure, now you tell me. Around.
I promise, that'll be the last time I reference any creepy live-action cat movie for this review, I promise. The reason they appear to be grave robbing is because they're trying to find a clue to where they can find some alcohol in the obituary. Here we establish some key character dynamics. Rocky and Freckle appear to be cousins. Freckle is pretty timid on account of his overbearing mother, and he's mostly doing this to impress Ivy. But the trio locates some Canadian whiskey.
The only whiskey is Irish whiskey. Ah.
And they are soon cornered by some gangsters.
Excuse me?
Look like we got some live ones tonight.
Yeah, c'est bon.
Oh, and by the way, Ivy's not much of a driver, as she smashes into some headstones and almost gets the car stuck in the nearby lake. But she manages to peel out of there, and the gangsters and their boss give chase. Here we see Freckle has another side to him. He's usually timid and meek, but once he gets his hands on some firearms, he begins blasting like a madman.
Profoundly unprofessional.
Well, they got more firepower than I expected. But you want to take over driving back there?
No. Especially now that you have alleviated us of our windshield.
Oh, you don't like how we play? How about you stop spectating and throw in, Sheriff? Or do we have to worry about you getting sentimental about old times?
Foreshadowing! Unless you read the comics, in which you probably know where this is going, but still, foreshadowing! Freckle takes out a tire of their car, the boss Mordecai tries to take them out, and they end up crashing into a rock quarry. Ivy and Freckle try to fix the car as best as they can, while Rocky is able to get the lights up and running. But then it seems the bad guys have followed them there.
Step right up, get
This is the part of the video where the reviewer makes the obligatory, oh, he's high, or oh, he's tripping balls right now joke, but let's be honest, this takes place in 1927. They have a couple of years until Reefer Madness comes out. We all know how they saw drug use back then.
More deadly, even than these soul-destroying drugs, is the menace of marijuana.
Freckle gets a gun that was lodged between the car seats. It was 1927. Everyone and their moms were packing heat, I guess. And tries taking out the goons. He almost takes down Mordecai, but ends up getting hurt when he notices that the goons, Seraphine and Nico, are closing in on Ivy. They're all about to be done for, but then Rocky goes full Joker mode and starts riding a steam shovel and throwing TNT sticks. The thugs duck for cover, Freckle saves Ivy, and Rocky ends up screwing things when one of the dynamite sticks flies back into the bucket of the steam shovel, causing him to bail once it explodes, and it takes out the water tower. Ivy gets the car working, the trio take off, and Mordecai almost shoots them, but hesitates. Again, this kind of thing makes more sense if you read the comic.
Aces. Here, Freckle. I got you a souvenir. You're supposed to light it first.
Meanwhile, we cut to the Little Daisy Cafe run by this cat, Mitzi, who's reminiscing about the good old days on account of her deceased husband. She even mentions that they have a supplier in the form of the funeral home.
And that feeling that all of this was ours. Used to be we could drive a whole convoy of trucks in. Now we're just digging for scraps.
For you see, this cafe is actually a front for a secret bar where they can supply the stolen booze that our main trio are acquiring. A kid, back then we actually called those a speakeasy. Oh, what now? A speakeasy. I remember those days. You know, it was bad enough with the bread lines and the Great Depression, but speakeasy was a time that we used out in public so the bastards in charge wouldn't find out that you got your paws on some liquor. You had a nice quiet place to dive in and get a drink without anybody knowing. It was a real hard time back then. Not that kids like you nowadays would understand what that was like, but anyway, we see the very few faces this place sees. The fancy socialite businessman, Mr. Wick Stable, who, of course, says that he would do something with his power, but he needs to watch his step because of his status amongst the community. There's also the musician Zeb, who's clearly not taking the lack of patrons all too well. And lastly, the bartender, Victor.
Victor, I know it's an adjustment, but the bartender's got to look like someone the patronage can tell their troubles to. More of a confidant, less of a coroner. Try smiling, honey.
Rocky, Ivy, and Freckle make it back, but the damages were obviously much more than how much they were able to smuggle, especially since the booze they got isn't even that good to begin with. But to lighten the mood, the gang set the stage and try to lighten things up with some music and dancing.
Come on, you owe me a dance.
I do?
Yes, I've decided. You know the Charleston?
No.
The Lindy Hop?
No.
The Roundabout? The Jingle Jangle?
Oh man, I remember those days. Back then, dance moves like the Charleston, the Roundabout, that's how you cut a rug. None of this flossing and forklift, or whatever the hell you kids call it. And we end with Mitzi imagining the place hopping with customers and her late husband by her side. Oh, and if you stay during the credits, we see Mordecai calling his boss, letting them know that the funeral home has connections to the Little Daisy Cafe, with the implication being the boss is intending on having the cafe destroyed.
Right then. Time to tie up some loose ends.
So that was the pilot for Lackadaisy, and it's really damn good. I admit, I'm pretty new to the webcomic, so I went into the pilot not knowing much, but for the sake of the review, I did go back and read it, and both are pretty good. It's very clear this thing was a passion project, from the animation that looks phenomenal despite the small crew working on it, and the voice cast mostly consisting of internet personalities who previously dubbed a lot of the Lackadaisy comics on YouTube. Everyone in the cast does a good job with their respective roles, and they brought a lot of depth to their characters. I particularly like the choice of including some of the sketch lines every once in a while on the characters. It never comes off distracting or unfinished, but rather stylized. Also, the story is completely original. While there is humor, it never feels like they're trying too hard to be funny, and it feels like they're more concerned with just telling a story, which is paced extremely well for a pilot. I am glad that this got a lot of praise when it came out, because I think it really deserves it. Plus, I'm glad to see that they're going forward with the series. As of now, they put out one short, and they announced they're going to try and do an 8-episode first season. So, like the others that I've reviewed previously, I'm looking forward to seeing where this series goes. Though there's one thing that still confuses me, kid. If this is from 1927, then what's with all the fancy schmancy color? I mean, is this one of those remasters, or whatever you kids call it these days? Because back then, when we went to go see one of them funny talking pictures, it was just in black and white. Well, aside from the obvious choice of talking about the Has-Been Hotel Amazon series and eventually talking about the second season of Hell of a Boss, it seems the only one of these I have left is Murder Drones, and I'm still waiting for that to wrap up its first season. But until then, guys, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough. No, I never understood that. At the end of almost all these things, the kid just gets up and walks away. Where's he even going? I don't even know. Is this some kind of like curtain call thing or whatever? Man, I just don't understand this generation.
JJ.